Digi-Egg cards, I'm so glad we finally got it. The purple Minomon that we need. With its inherent effect, it's just fantastic to get rid of Floodgate rookies as long as we're attacking with a multicolored Digimon, but not only because it's purple so that any of our rookies of our Wormmon and Vmons can Digivolve on top of it, it's also Minomon in its name specifically so that we can Digivolve our BT16 Wormmon on top of it, which I think is one of the most important rookies that you must run as a 4 of in this particular deck because it lets you combo again and again and again, being able to reduce your Digivolution cost as you climb up. This is one of the key cards that helps you keep your turn and keep you playing without having to spend as much memory as you used to. So yeah, definitely a 4 of. And as we move on to the other Wormmon, also a 4 of the EX3 one, which is our main searcher, being able to grab a free trade piece, but also trashing one of them helps us set up so that we can access it for our other Wormmon to Digivolve into. Retaliation with its inherited effect is always great because it gives us the additional removal, and it works very well, especially when it comes with Dino B if we need to trade and raid, which is really cool. And then I got the 3 copies of the red Vmon from EX3, which is to pitch away our free trade from our hand to draw 2 cards, and it's inheritable to give extra DP. It is also really nice to ensure that we can swing over things with it, which does come up in many matchups. Starting with level 4s, the promo Shadramon being both red and purple is so crucial to the deck because it lets you fulfill the 2 color requirements that you need more efficiently, aside from just relying on the old Flamedra and the old Shadra specifically from EX3. This card can play your Wormmons or Vmons back out, and that you can use their on plays all over again to gain maximum value. Its inherited effect with on deletion to play something back out again from your hand is also really good, which keeps your board afloat. And we all have to admit it, guys, this card is so crucial to the core of the deck that you just can't miss out on. And yeah, it's expensive, it's difficult to get, which is why we definitely need more access to it somehow. Whether we need a reprint alt art with textures, that would be amazing, or even just give more access to the promo pack again so everyone can get this card and play with the deck. But we got to move along and talk about the other Shadramon. 3 copies of the EX3 version just to let us like continuously Digivolve. And this end of turn DNA is really important for the deck because we use it very often enough in the combos, which I'll show you later. Same goes with Flamedramon. Letting us bounce off each other, vice versa, is how we can, still find ways to DNA efficiently with it. I'm so glad that both of them can Digivolve on top of purple or red just for the same 2 costs is always really good to give us the flexibility. And then I teched in 1 copy of Sethmon, which is mainly to deal with Floodgate rookies. The really cool thing about this card is that you can use this effect to delete by deleting itself, use the armor purge to protect it, and you still get to resolve the pop on the opponent's side. The fact that it's also purple and red just like Shadramon is really nice to help us fulfill color requirements when we DNA as well. Level 5s definitely need the 4 copies of the BT16 Dinobeemon. This card is so good because it lets you play out any level 5 or lower. In the early stages of this game, you can just play out a rookie to continue to search, but if not, you play out a level 4. Otherwise, you play out any level 5 Imperialdramon, another Dino B, so then you can go ahead and DNA with it right away. After playing that Digimon out, you can also give one of your Digimon rush and attack a player. Keep in mind, if you give it rush, you have to attack. There is an errata on this card with a bit of a mistranslation, so I'll leave a link in the description box down below so you guys can read it up, but just keep in mind the rule is if you give something rush, you have to attack with it. You can give it itself so that you can attack, and then you can also raid over a body if you need to, which I really, really like. And of course, partition is always great to play around removal so you can play out your level 4s back and then potentially DNA into another one all over again. As for the other Dino B and Imperialdramon from EX3, I'm running 2 copies of each just because when you DNA into them, you can always play each other out and then continue to DNA again into your level 6s. There are times I find myself swinging with these guys anyways just because they have that on deletion, being able to play Wormmon for Dino B and play Vmon back from Imperialdramon. Dino B's inherited effect is always great to help us attack unsuspended Digimon after we wipe out the opponent's board as well. And then with Imperialdramon's inherited effect against security +1 is one of my favorites to rack up underneath virus fighter mode because we can get maximum value as we check into opponent's security with no security effects. And I sometimes even consider bumping this up to 3. That's it for level 5s, and let's move on to level 6s where I got 3 copies of the virus Dragon mode, as you want to DNA both your level 5s, purple and red, to get into this guy. And when you DNA into it, your opponent's gonna have to make a choice. one Digimon survives and everything else gets deleted. The wider the board they have, the better it is and greater value it is for this card when you get into it, especially if you have Dinobeemon underneath. You can also ensure that you swing over there and suspend it remaining last Digimon to clear everything off. And as you attack, you gain DP. You can Digivolve into fighter mode for the 2 costs. And this is where the virus fighter mode comes in, which I'm running 2 copies of to negate all security effects like I mentioned earlier. This includes not just options, tamers, and Digimon effects for the entire turn. And you get to pierce as well as you attack over the opponent's Digimon so that it can deal damage. It's on deletion to play out Vmon and Wormmon back from the trash, enables you to loop your DNA combos all over again. And just in case if you didn't know, I am 99.999% certain that we're going to be getting new support for Virus Imperial specifically, because we've seen it from the posters on the Liberator webcomic. So I'm definitely excited for that. And I'm always excited for new support because I believe this deck actually has what it takes with its core function on how well it does its combos. It can take it to the next level, even in a competitive scene. So make sure to subscribe, turn on that notification bell to stay tuned, as I can't wait to cover it on the channel again. And speaking of fighter mode, I also teched in 1 copy of the BT18 one, just to ace against our opponents, which sometimes they don't see coming. We are playing the Imperialdramon deck after all, and thanks to its alternative Digivolution requirement, we can go on top of a Dragon mode for the 2 costs no problem, just to bomb deck the opponent's Digimon and make multiple attacks. That's it for level 6s, and let's now talk about level 7s. I'm playing one of the Blitz Omni and one of the Paladin mode Ace. Paladin mode Ace is self-explanatory because, like I said, this is an Imperial deck after all. You can always go on top of your fighter mode. You can always go on top of your Dragon mode, regardless of its colors, to counter against your opponents, punish wide boards, recycle the trash, yours or even your opponents, to counter against purple decks, which is really good. The reason why I'm playing the Omni in this deck is not only to synergize with Paladin mode Ace to gain memory back, but also to go for the game finishing attack, because this deck can deal damage. And often enough times I find myself lacking that one extra swing, and the Blitz Omni does exactly the job. And that's it for the level 7s and Digimon. Let's move on to Tamers. I'm running 2 copies of the BT1 tie to give our stack the additional check. I absolutely love it when I stack it along with the Virus Imperial to deal extra damage. And like I mentioned, as we seal off the opponent's security, we negate any value they can potentially gain off of it, which is always really, really important. And because of that effect, it helps us push for a win con even faster, aside from being a memory setter so we don't get choked out. And then I'm running 4 copies of Analog Youth. This is a purple based deck after all, which is why we need to search and trash our pieces as quickly as possible, for the 2 cost is always a card we want to see in the early stages. This deck takes advantage of its second effect quite often, just because with all the on deletion synergy that you have, you can keep your turn afterwards, hatch an egg, and have your Wormmon ready to go the next turn again to keep your momentum up. And that's it for all of our Tamers. And you guys might be wondering, why aren't you playing the Davis and Ken from BT16? And I actually want to address specifically why I don't want to run them and what I think what they're lacking in the tech choices. So stay tuned for that, and then we'll go move on to the options now, where for the same reason of playing Analog Youth, I'm running Risk Memory Boost. I want to be able to trash as quickly as possible, set up the pieces I need, and draw and find cards. And I gotta tell you guys, the delay effect just to gain 2 memory is actually really important for one of the epic combos that I'll show you guys later on. And then to round off for all the options, I'm running the One of Calling and Deathclaw, which is really intended for self-deletion to delete our own fighter mode to play our bodies back out. Tech choices and other cards that you guys can also include this deck. Let's just begin the discussion with the Davis Ken from BT16 and why I'm not including it. I admit that being able to play a Wormmon and Vmon for free constantly from your hand is always really nice, because you can continue to search, you can continue to trash what cards you need, but I feel like playing the 4 memory doesn't give you that enough return, because I feel like I want to prioritize with Miss Memory Boost and Analog. These cards actually give me the greater late game return that I need. Not to mention, you don't even get any of the second part of the effects. Even if you DNA'd, if you Digivolve, you can't gain a memory, you can't trash anything. And I feel like if you're not playing this as a 4 of, like the standard Imperial deck, you're not really maximizing its efficiency. And at times when I have to hard drop this for 4 full memory, it just doesn't feel like I'm getting enough return value afterwards. Otherwise, I'm just trying to rely on my opponent to chip on my security to hope to see it, and then it's a nice bonus. And to round off the discussion and my personal opinion on this card, I always find myself switching between playing and not playing it, where I can always see myself adding it back in just to further test it more as well. Other rookies you can include, Ukomon is always great as a first turn play to help you search and find pieces and hatch your eggs to keep up with your momentum. The BT16 blue and red Vmon is always up for consideration because you can always gain memory back, which is nice with it. You can also Digivolve for 1 on top of Minomon normally, and similarly that goes for the BT16X Vmon to gain additional DP, but it's also raid, giving you an alternative way to remove Floodgate rookies aside from Sethmon as well. The BT16 Stingmon can suspend down your opponent's Digimon, you can trade with Retaliation, and because both these cards are red and purple, they're certainly there to help you DNA as well. There are also other level 6 aces you guys can include that are free traits specifically, which synergize with this deck too. Grand Kuaga Ace to suspend down stuff, delete Tamers as well, and potentially gain security +1 is always really nice. You can also go for Valkyrie Ace to deal with opponent's wide boards by blanket -5000 and also gaining security attack +1 off its own effect to delete something with 8000 DP or lower as well. And all of these can actually easily Digivolve on top of your level 5s if you ever have them standing on the board, so you can threaten against your opponents. You can also play the BT12 fighter mode, the blue and green one, because Dragon mode lets you Digivolve into this too. Same reason why we play the Ace. This is great to deal with wide boards and bottom deck a whole bunch of stuff as well. And for another spicy tech that I used to run a while ago is actually the BT13 Gallantmon. Just because we add so many cards to our trash, we can easily play this for 1 or even 0 cost and rush for game, but also surprise our opponents with sudden removal that they just don't expect. And with Crimson Mode Ace, this is something we can blast over our fighter or dragon mode to counter against our opponents, and to really capitalize off the amount of cards in our trash, we can burn through our opponent's security as we swing with it afterwards. If you ever want additional searching, you can always include Purple Memory Boost and Wisdom Training for the exact same reason why I run Memory Boost, to potentially gain that extra 2 memory. And if you ever do decide to add in Wisdom Training, I would only recommend a maximum of 2 copies just because you have red sources in your deck as well, which can be kind of clunky. Jack Ray for the exact same reason, to potentially get that extra memory, and because you have so many cards in your trash in late game stages, you can gain a lot off of it. And with Pandemonium Flame, it's just another deletion tool that can give you better trade-offs since you're intending to delete your own fighter mode anyways, and then that means you can delete any of your opponent's unsuspended level 6 as well. And because there's a fair amount of red sources in this deck, you should always consider teching in Crimson Blaze, just because it's really good in the current meta to fight off against anything that plays off effects, just like this deck as well. Combos and how to play the Virus Imperialdramon deck. Let's start off with the mulligan hand. We want to see our rookies, Vmon and Wormmon, Analog Youth, and Miss Memory Boost like I mentioned, which I'm always still prioritizing. Then the cards I want to set up in the trash are going to be my Shadowmon Flamedramons from EX3. Keeping the promo Shadowmon in my hand or in trash is equally as good because my intention is to always try to have the BT16 Wormmon in raising ready to go. Once we find our level 5s, we want to go ahead and DNA with them to go into Dragon mode into Fighter mode, and repeat it as much as possible. For combo number 1, I'm going to show you guys how all you need is this kind of trash setup with a promo Shadowmon, another BT16 Wormmon, Flamedramon, and Imperialdramon, and of course the BT16 Wormmon itself ready to go, and 1 memory is all you need. For Flamedramon, you can also have the other Shadowmon, whichever works, it will help you achieve the exact same thing. So push out Wormmon at the start of main phase, you get to Digivolve into the Shadowmon from the trash with a reduced cost of 1. Because of its alternative digital fusion requirement, it's only going to cost 2, and with Wormmon's reduction, that's how you kind of keep your turn. Shadowmon is going to then play out the Wormmon suspended. Wormmon on play is not only just starter main, we'll let you do the same thing, Digivolving into Flamedramon for the 1 cost. Now with Flamedramon's when Digivolving effect, you get to utilize it to DNA. You're going to DNA, making sure that the purple source is on top because we're going to go into BT16 Dino B. With that, BT16 Dino B is going to let us play a level 5 or lower, which is going to be the Imperialdramon right here. Then we get to choose to give something rush and attack a player or not. If there's something we want to remove on the opponent's side, this is the opportunity. We can go for it. If you want to use the Imperialdramon, get deleted, play a Vmon back from trash, you can go for it. Otherwise, I sometimes like to use the Dino B to swing, raid into something that's like less DP than it is, and then suspend things down while you're at it. At the same time, trash a card off Minomon as well to delete a Floodgate if anything, or a level 3, and then you can go ahead and use the end of turn of Flamedramon to DNA your Imperialdramon and Dino B into Dragon mode here. Dragon mode is going to make your opponent choose 1 Digimon on their board. They're going to have to wipe out the rest. Afterwards, you get to blitz and attack with it. So you're going to go for security, or go for their Digimon, whichever you prefer. If they have a suspended Digimon, then that's great because the Wormmon sets that up as well. When attacking, you're gonna gain extra 2k, and you're gonna pay the 2 memory to Digivolve into Fighter mode Virus. And with that, you're gonna bottom deck your Dragon mode, to negate all security effects for the entire turn. Whether you're swinging over your opponent's Digimon or you're swinging straight at security, you have piercing to deal that damage. So you're gonna go for 2 checks and you're standing with a fighter mode right here, ready to go for the checks again the next turn. And if this stack ever gets in threat, we can potentially partition out the Shadowmon and the Flamedramon. Say the fighter mode gets deleted, and if we had a Vmon from trash to begin with as well, we get to play out the Wormmon and the Vmon, floating 4 bodies back out right here, and then we can resume another combo the next turn. For combo number 2, I'm going to show you guys the original EX3 line all the way up to potentially wipe out your opponent's entire board. This is what the setup looks like. You want to have a Wormmon or another Wormmon or a Vmon outside an area. You want to have access to 2 rookies. That is what's most important. You're going to go push out as well, making sure you have a Shadowmon and a Dinobeemon in the trash, and having the other 2 in your hand, of course, your entire lineup. What you're going to do is here, let's say Digivolve for 2 into Flamedramon. Flamedramon is then going to use its effect to allow you to Digivolve from the trash instead of DNA right away this time. Shadowmon is going to Digivolve for the 2 cost from the trash, and then Shadowmon is going to let you DNA. Once we're going to this time go and DNA with the red source on top, following the procedures of the DNA requirements. For Imperialdramon, it's red first and then purple. Imperialdramon is now then going to play the Dinobeemon out. Dinobeemon is then going to come out, and then with the end of turn of the inheritables, we can go ahead and DNA into the same Dragon mode once again. Here our opponent is going to have to choose 1 Digimon and everything else gets deleted. Afterwards, we're going to go ahead and swing at their remaining Digimon, whether it's unsuspended or not. Dino B is going to let us attack the unsuspended version. With that, we can gain extra 2000 DP, and just like before, paying the 2 memory, Digivolve into fighter mode. And then with the fighter mode combo, let's bomb deck the dragon mode so that when we pierce and also negate security effects with security +1, at least 17k DP, running through almost anything that we want, which is incredibly strong. For the final combo, I want to show you guys the whole reason why I run Tie and with Miss Memory Boost, because these are the cards that you want to save for this particular moment, and you can have this kind of setup because once you do, you can actually OTK your opponents with this deck, which is absolutely insane. So just like before, we're gonna have the Wormmon at the back, which is always really important. We're gonna push out, and at the start of main, we're gonna Digivolve into Shadowmon for the 1 cost. Shadowmon is then gonna play out this Wormmon from the trash, and just like before, we're gonna Digivolve into either a Shadowmon or a Flamedramon that we have in the trash so that we can go ahead and DNA. We're not gonna use the when Digivolving effect here just yet because there's no need to, it's still our turn. We only really need to use that when the memory gauge is past the opponent's side. This is where I want to use the memory boost to pop it to gain the 2 memory. And then now I can go ahead and DNA both the Shadowmons together to go into the Dino B just like before. Dino B is then going to play out the Imperialdramon, and just like the similar situation as I described earlier, we can choose to raid, we can choose to attack the opponent if we want to. Depending on the situation, it's totally up to you. But let's just say we don't this time, because let's just go ahead and normal DNA into Dragon mode. We don't need to use any of our end of turns here because it's still our turn. Gonna swing with the Dragon mode, Digivolve for 2 into Fighter mode. Fighter mode, same thing as before. We're gonna bottom deck this to negate all security effects. Fighter mode is gonna swing in for 15k, 3 checks, thanks to Tie and thanks to the Imperialdramon. Once you're at this stage, this is why I really like running these 1 cost options, because by doing so, our intention is to delete our Fighter mode to repeat all of it all over again so that we can swing. Let's go for Calling from Darkness instead. Either Deathclaw, either works. 1 cost is all you need. You're gonna delete the fighter mode here. Now, very important, make sure what you wanna grab back off Calling, do not grab out that fighter mode from the stack, because if you grab that Digimon, you're gonna lose all your inheritables, and you wanna make sure that you still have that Shadowmon deletion, which is gonna happen. So in this case, if you had a Dragon mode to begin with in the trash, grab it back, because you certainly will be needing it. And the most ideal one would actually be Dinobeemon, which we can get back into as well. Now that the stack has been deleted, there's multiple triggers after Calling from Darkness. First, we're gonna go ahead and use Analog Youth to suspend, to hatch, and gain 2 memory. If any of you guys are judges, let me know if I'm resolving this procedure correctly, because from my understanding is you get to choose at this moment. And let's just say we use Shadowmon first to play out Wormmon suspended. From my understanding, we have to resolve first in, first out. Since the Wormmon is the newest trigger here, we are not going to resolve fighter mode just yet. We're going to finish using Wormmon to search, grab a piece, toss away, so we can kind of optimally go through our trash and filter it if we need to. Once fighter mode is deleted, this is where we get to play Wormmon and Veemon back out. I'm going to use Veemon's effect first here to trash Dinobeemon or anything that's free trait. It really doesn't matter at this point, just to draw another 2 cards if you need to. And then this is where all the action really comes in. Wormmon on play, because it's still your turn, hasn't ended yet. This is where you can Digivolve into the promo Shadramon, making sure that you didn't grab that back. You want to make sure there's one in the trash. That's the whole reason why you want to get into it, because then with Shadramon, you can play out the BT16 Wormmon once again. And with the BT16 Wormmon, we can Digivolve any of our guys for reduce 1, Digivolving into the same Shadramon or Flamedramon, whatever we have, DNA into Dinobeemon, and then play out Powerdramon back from the trash. And this is here once again, we can give a Digimon rush and attack, because notice how I play this Veemon, and this Veemon was played this turn. You can even give it to this Veemon to attack your opponent one more time or for 1 extra hit. Although it may not be necessary, it can be up to you. Same thing repeating as before, you can go for the raid combo if you want to. But keep in mind, if you give something rush, you have to attack a player. That's the ruling, that's how it's supposed to be translated. Now, again, it's still our turn, which is why having that extra memory is so crucial, because when we keep it to our turn, we're going to DNA into Dragonmon once again, forcing our opponents to delete stuff, but we probably have cleared the board initially anyways. And then we're going to swing at the remaining 2 security. Powdermon's going to have security +1. Ty's going to give it another extra check. And also don't forget, Fighter Mode Virus's effect is still live in negating security effects. It doesn't just negate security effects that it checks, it negates security effects for the entire turn. So this is where we don't want to use Fighter Mode, because we're going to pass our turn, but we're going to take down all of their security. This is where we go for Blitz Omni for game.
The Ultimate Dragonkin Collection is a very special limited series. It symbolizes a huge part of my journey since the very beginning. So make sure to grab yours on the AVAULT store right now, and I really appreciate the support. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, whatever you are. See you in the next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.